Welcome to the Krista Escamilla Show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Krista Escamilla Show. So happy to be spending this time with you, and I hope that your day is treating you well, your week, your month, your year so far. We are so glad that you're here, and we're so thankful for our sponsors. So let's start off with a big thank you to all of them, because once again, we couldn't have a show without them. So thank you, sponsors. Kevin Foreman of Foreman Financial, Hotel Santa Rita, Rig ID Workwear, Midland Cap Company, Thin FR, and JoinCapClub.com. Oh, did I say Midland Cap Company? I think I did, but we'll say it again. How's that? We'll give it two shouts out. Thank you to our sponsors. We appreciate all that you do and allowing us to share the amazing stories of West Texans and beyond. So we are so excited about today's guest. I know I have been looking forward to this interview for a long time. We've talked about it for a long time. We're finally here doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, and he deserves a round of applause, so I don't care wherever you're at, unless you're driving. Let's give Mr. Bill Coombes a big round of applause. Yay! Bill, thank you so much for being with us today.
I've been looking forward to this also for a long time, Krista.
This is going to be fun. And you have a bio a mile long. I'm going to hit some highlights. First and foremost, I always like to begin with husband and dad. I also want to mention he has been a wing leader of the High Sky Wing at CAF for how many years now?
This will be my second year to be there, but
flying.
I've been doing it for a long
time. And flying 43 years.
Yep.
50th year at Trinity School of Midland.
Yep.
And he runs the Alumni Association there and does a great job. He has had pretty much every title, I think, at Trinity. It seems like from coach to teacher. Now you sub. And when I think of Trinity School, I think of Mr. Bill Coombes. So thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you. And, my time at Trinity was obviously... I was kind of like a barnacle. I attached myself to the ship of state and never left. They never scraped me away. And it has been enjoyable, and I never, ever want to leave that place.
I love that. And we don't ever want you to leave. And you also, I didn't even mention, announce the football games, which you do a great job. And anybody that is ever on the microphone, this is like the number one fear in America, right?
Yes.
But not for us.
No.
Not for you and I. We love it.
No.
We were sharing jokes earlier, our favorite microphone jokes.
Yes, I've never turned down an open mic.
Yes, me neither.
You have those opportunities and you take them.
Absolutely.
And doing those football games, since we're into funny stories, those TV news people come occasionally to a Trinity football game.
Yes, those TV news people.
Yeah, those people. And about 3 years ago, this guy came up to me and after taking a picture of the lineup and all this stuff, and he said, and I got to tell you, we look forward to coming to these games just to hear you talk.
Aww.
And I said, yes.
Yes, mission accomplished.
Then I went and found out that there's a website called Texas Six-Man Football, and I was the subject of a whole thread about that idiot broadcaster of the Trinity football games. So I went from up here to down there.
'Tis life, right?
That's the way it goes.
That's right. It's all about balance.
Yes, yes.
Well, that's a funny story. And I cannot wait to hear your entire story. And I want to start from the beginning because, I usually always ask a fun fact at the end of our guests. But we're going to start with a fun fact right now because, talking about the beginning and early beginnings, your mom was famous. Let's go back to the beginning. How were you born, Bill?
I think I was born in about the conventional way, but maybe they never told me anything different. My parents both grew up in Southern California in the San Fernando Valley, and my mom was, when the war broke out, was at North Hollywood High School, and her brother and her father had both joined and were serving. My grandfather was in the Seabees, and my uncle was in the merchant marine kind. Well, he was in the Navy, but he served on a merchant ship. And my mother wanted to do her part. Mm-hmm. So she was volunteering to do, the Japanese immigrants in Southern California all ran the fruit farms. Well, they got all interned. Mm-hmm. And so my mother's high school class would go out and pick the fruit to make sure it didn't rot. And so it was back in production. And she did that. And then she volunteered at a veterans hospital And she worked at a short order place and actually got discovered, kind of like the Hollywood starlet thing.
Right, like the things that you hear about, like
Yes.
she was a waitress in
Yes.
Hollywood, and then the agent walked in and
And said, have you ever thought about modeling? And she said, no. And the owner of the short order place said, well, you're not a very good waitress, so maybe you ought to go do modeling. And
That's
so
funny.
she did some modeling, was on the cover of Cosmopolitan before it was not
Wow.
Cosmopolitan. Yeah, she was on the
Right.
cover of that. She did a series of ads for the Navy, the military, and she went to the Hollywood Canteen, which is very famous back in the war for a place where servicemen went to dance.
Yes.
And she was one of the gals down there, and her best friend was the daughter of a Hollywood producer, and she got access to all of the movie studios.
Wow.
And that's where she ran across the Lone Ranger.
Yes.
Clayton Moore, the original Lone Ranger, thought my mother was pretty special and kept trying to get her to go out for a date. Well, he was like 30.
Thank God she said no, otherwise you might not be sitting here today.
Exactly. But
And
she
turned
turned
him
down the Lone Ranger. She did go out with Donald O'Connor, who was kind of a minor celebrity at the time, and got thrown off of a set with the movie that was in progress by Roy Rogers.
Really?
Yeah.
Why'd she get
snuck
thrown off
in.
the set?
Well, she snuck in and was in the background, and some guy came and said, hey, you're not supposed to be here. And she and her high school buddy were there, and Roy Rogers came over and said, no, she's my sister, she can stay.
Oh my goodness, that is crazy. So what a life. So she had lived this Hollywood life.
Yes.
A model.
Yes.
She met not your husband. She met your dad. How?
My dad was a naval fighter pilot. They knew each other in high school slightly, and my dad was stationed temporarily in Southern California and went home and saw my mother. And at that time, she was being courted by an Army P-38 pilot. And my dad said, you don't need to go out with that Army guy. And so they started going out and got married. They got married on the day after my dad turned 21.
Really?
They got married in Las Vegas. And my dad said, well, I have a 3-day leave, and then I have to go off to war.
Wow.
And so that was right at the end of 1945. It was the middle. The war was going to be over.
Okay.
And so he was a fighter pilot on an aircraft carrier.
That was my next question. Was he a pilot too?
Yes.
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 Okay.
And that's where I got my interest in aviation, obviously.
Obviously.
And so they had the, kind of the classic, what a lot of people did in the war. They got married, went off to war, came back, had a baby.
Right.
I'm the result.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad. This
Yes.
is a great result. I'm glad that was how the stars aligned.
Yes. Yes.
And I love and I, of course we appreciate his service and I know you have a fond love of history. Is that where it was born from?
I think so. My uncle, both my uncles served in the Navy. My dad was obviously in the Navy, so I had a connection with World War II, and all of his friends, all of my mom's friends, all had people who served. And of course, when you grew up in the late 40s, early 50s, everybody was a veteran.
Right.
It was not unusual. And so I kind of got immersed in World War II history that way.
Do you have a favorite story from that time that they may have shared with you of being there, being in the war?
Oh, yeah. One of the people that my dad went to high school with was a Marine, and he was able to take pictures of the island of Peleliu during the invasion, and these pictures were horrifying.
Oh, I bet.
And my parents, they had a big party, and they were showing these slides, and I snuck down the hall to see them.
How old were you about?
I was about 5.
5, okay.
And my mother immediately turned me around and sent me back. But I'll never forget seeing those images
Yeah.
and thinking, my God, this guy went through that?
Right.
All these guys did? How did they do it?
Yeah.
And I still get chills just thinking about those
Yeah.
guys.
And how did they do it? Because, wow, I can't imagine the things that they saw and
No.
the things that nobody should
Nobody should see
experience.
that. Nobody should.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's where I got my interest in World War II.
I love it. We'll talk more history later, but I want to jump fast forward to your favorite college. How'd you get to SMU?
Because of Don Meredith.
Because of Don Meredith? Okay, I can't wait to hear this story.
Well, back when I graduated from Midland High School in 1964, and at that time, college admission was not what it is today. And my best friend in high school, we decided to go check out TCU and SMU. And why I picked that, I don't know, but other than Don Meredith, yeah. So we went to SMU, went over to TCU, and at that time, the admissions process was you go in and say, well, we're interested, and they give you a form, you fill it out, and they says, oh, yeah, like, you're in. Yeah, so.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice if it was that?
Yes. So I picked SMU over TCU because, excuse me, the girls were a lot cuter.
Hey, there you go.
And Don Meredith went to SMU, so.
I love how people pick their schools.
Yes, yeah. And when I was doing college counseling at Trinity, I would say, now look this is the wrong way to choose a college. Don't do it like I did.
But it worked out for you because that's where you met Elise.
No.
Oh.
No.
See, you think you know someone's story, but you really don't.
Well, at the time, SMU, well, like it does today, is kind of a snobby school, rich co-eds, and I thought, well, I'll snag one of those. And I actually went out with Mr. Frito-Lay.
Oh, yeah. Like the real Frito-Lay, his daughter?
Yes, I went out with his daughter once. I thought, this will work out. Well, she was really not very nice, so scrapped that. Fell back on the girl back home who was my wife, became my wife. And I met her because she helped me wash my car once.
Well, there you go. So pick the ones that will help you wash your car.
That was the only time she's ever helped me wash my car. So,
but it worked.
It worked.
She got the ring.
Yes. 53 years later, it worked.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What a that is a great story. When I think of you, Mr. Coombes, I think so much. I just think your passion for history. I think your passion for flying. I think your passion for Trinity School. Right? That's just what I think. What are you most passionate about?
Well, I think you've summed it up. I obviously Trinity's been a big part of my life, and aviation, and family.
Yes. That's it.
Those are, what else do you want?
That's right.
I don't have any other particular interests, and I think that excuse me, I don't think I could survive if I didn't have Trinity School to look forward to.
Yes.
To going up there and seeing all of the kids. I just celebrated my birthday with a bunch of fourth graders.
Yes.
One of whom shares my birthday.
Oh, I love that. I saw that on Facebook that y'all were together.
Yes,
that's awesome.
Yes. So I have a little posse of young people that keep me young.
I know, and they're so great. And I have to say, you are so great with them. I had the opportunity to watch you. Our girls, they played basketball, and you love teaching girls basketball, right? How did that happen? How did you fall into that?
Well, I actually started after I got out of college. I taught at Cistercian Prep School for 4 years.
Okay.
And I was the football coach, and I wasn't as successful as some people wanted me to be. So I was asked to find another location, and a friend of mine from high school was working at Trinity, and he said, I think we need an athletic director. So I applied, got the job, and came to Trinity as the football coach.
Oh, okay.
And then I became the admissions director, and then I became the dean of students, and I became the head of the middle school, and all this time I'm teaching and coaching football.
Yes.
And I decided I wanted to coach girls basketball because they smell a lot better than those football boys.
That's true. And you're so good at it. I mean, really, we had so much fun watching you coach those girls. And
yes.
I mean, coaching, well, first of all, teenage girls, right? Or preteen girls. And there can be tears from time to time, right?
Yes.
And there's emotions. They're up and they're down. And you were so good at just handling those emotions.
Well, I always like to say that there's no crying in girls basketball, but I seem to have borrowed that from some movie.
Yeah, some movie. Which movie is that? I love that. I love that Tom Hanks movie.
Yes, but coaching girls basketball was a big departure from coaching football, obviously.
Right.
But in its own way, it was more rewarding because girls used to tell them, "You're born to shop, not to shoot." And
which is true for my girls.
actually, your girls were really good. But to see them actually become comfortable on the court playing basketball that's very rewarding.
It is,
and
fun.
I miss that. I miss doing that.
And I miss watching them play. That that was just a fun time because obviously basketball was not our kid. You've heard me talk. Our kids golf. That was not their primary sport, but they loved it, and I think it was because it was fun and because you made it fun, and they got to do something they normally don't get to do.
Exactly, and I
love
thought
that.
When you're coaching little girl basketball, you don't want it to be life and death. You want it to be, let's have some fun out here.
Exactly.
And do some stuff. And we did.
Well done. You did that for sure.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break for quote of the day. And just to remind everyone, we are sitting here today in Midland, Texas. We're having so much fun. I just love today's guest because he has been a part of our life for the how many years have we been at Trinity School? 20 years.
Yeah.
At Trinity School. And when I, first met you, I just felt like I didn't know all the titles that you held until just now, but I felt like you just could do any of those jobs there. So
what do we do?
We're just let me mix these around a little bit. You pull one out, we read it, and you tell me what it means to you. So
leader.
Of course, you got the leader card because you're such a great leader.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
what does it say on the back? Wait, so now there's a quote.
I encourage everyone to choose forgiveness rather than division, teamwork over personal ambition. And that's from some French guy?
My writing, Jean-Francois Coppa.
There you go.
My writing is a little tough to read. I can't even barely read it. What does that quote mean to you? Because I love that.
I think that sums up exactly what leaders need to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, you want to encourage teamwork because otherwise you can't accomplish a goal. Mm-hmm. And I try to do that like in basketball. Mm-hmm. And I think that forgiving people when they make a mistake is also part of being a good leader.
Share a story with me that kind of speaks to through the years, because I know the different teams that you've coached and just being involved, day in and day out with the school. What is the, is there an example of that you've seen in your life?
Well, I think that when you coach any team sport, you have to expect people to make mistakes.
Yes.
And you have to make that into a learning experience and say, look, okay, you did this wrong, this didn't work out right, or the team didn't do so well.
Right.
But there's another day, the sun comes up, we move on. And you learn from that. And I think that's what a leader's supposed to do.
That is so true, so true. Do you have a favorite quote that you've lived by all these years?
Oh, goodness. I haven't even thought about it.
Or a favorite Bible verse? Or a favorite saying that you'd tell the kids out there?
Well, let's see. Avoid a land war in Asia. Buy low, sell high.
Buy low, sell high.
I really don't have a lot of quotes. I always thought that Stonewall Jackson had a pretty good one where he said, "Don't take counsel of your fears."
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes, it is.
I like that.
I tend to overthink and worry about things that I don't have any control over, and so occasionally I think of good old Thomas J. Jackson in the Civil War saying, "Don't take counsel of your fears."
I love that. I love that. Why is it important for us to know? Because when I think history, and I am not a history buff, so please forgive me. When I think of history, though, I think of you because I know your passion for it. Why is it important that we learn history? Because I'm sure you've had students that have asked you, "What does this matter to me, Coach? Why do I need to know about what happened 50, 60 years ago?"
Exactly.
So why is it important?
Well, I think that anybody that gets into teaching history with the kind of same passion, I guess, you want people to understand that those people who were alive back then, they loved, they hated, they laughed, they cried, they did everything that you do now, but their circumstances were different. And so you can't judge them by your circumstance. And I think that too many times people do that.
Yes.
They look back at history and say, well, that was stupid, or those people were bad.
But they can't judge because they weren't there.
No, you weren't there.
So that's why it's important for us to learn it and to try to understand it. More for empathy than anything else.
Yes. And of course, one of the things is the Civil War.
Right.
which I know something about.
Yes.
And wasn't there, missed the draft notice. But I think people today look back at the Civil War period and focus on slavery and how bad that was and everything, but they don't realize the time in which that existed. And when you try to judge somebody as being a good person or a bad person using your values, you're doing a disservice to those people back then.
Because it was a different time.
It was a different time.
different era.
Yes.
Do you feel that history repeats itself? Because I know that's a saying that you hear through the years, right? Yeah, I mean, how many times have you heard it? Well, history is repeating itself.
It actually, well, to quote, it says, people who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat its mistakes.
Okay.
It's not history repeats itself.
Okay.
So there
well,
we go.
I'm glad you.
Yes, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
Yes,
one.
yes, phrased it the right way. I love that.
Well, my other favorite quote about history is Henry Ford said, "All history is bunk," and in a way, he's right. People can survive perfectly well without understanding anything about history, just like you can survive without knowing algebra.
Which is true, because I have not used algebra a day in my life, but I love all of you that love algebra, let me tell you. Yes. I love you algebra teachers,
yes.
But I really have not used it a day in my life, but I also talk for a living. So.
And you know that I've yet to have to solve the hypotenuse with the a squared, b squared, c squared business.
Yes.
Just not happening.
I used to say, I don't know. Why am I going to have to know why x plus y equals z? Why?
Yes.
I just know, I need to know how to work and pay my bills and raise kids.
And I think that, people don't need to know too much about history because they're in the immediate now. But if you sit back and look at some circumstance that you find yourself in and you think about, okay, if I knew more about how this circumstance came to be, then history has some value.
Yeah.
You don't need it, but
it's good to understand
help.
it. Do you have a favorite era? Because whenever there's a guest on here that loves Taylor Swift, I always say, what's your favorite Taylor Swift era? So I'm not going to ask you that question.
Oh, you could.
Hey, do you have a favorite Taylor Swift song or era?
As your daughters would attest, we played Taylor Swift music during basketball warm-ups. So
this is true.
I'm a fan of Taylor Swift.
Maybe shake it off when you miss a free throw. Shake it off. Shake it off.
I go back to the early Taylor Swift.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Tim McGraw one.
Look at this.
Yeah.
I am impressed.
Yes.
He is throwing out Taylor Swift's. Yeah,
Yes.
Tim McGraw's a good song.
Yes, that's a good one. And the one about where she gets proposed to and wants to write.
Love Story.
Yeah, that's
Love
right.
Story. Yes.
We played both of those songs during warm-ups in basketball.
I cannot tell you how much your cool factor just went up for all of our Swiftie fans. You just quoted 2 Taylor Swift songs.
Oh, yeah.
So favorite, now that we've discussed favorite Taylor Swift era, what about your favorite history era?
Oh, the Civil War.
Civil War, okay.
Yeah, and it's not, I know a lot about World War II as well, but the I suppose romance of the Civil War attracted me early on. My first history book was a Civil War book.
Okay.
And I've kept an interest in it, gone to all the battlefields, all that kind of stuff.
Taught it for years.
In
the classroom.
Yes.
What is if there was one thing you want all of us to know today about that era, what is the most important thing that you think we should know?
Well, that it was a terrible time for the country, but the circumstance that led to that terrible time, curing it, has resulted in where we live right now. The circumstance of slavery and racism and all of that stuff. We actually fought a war about that, and the good guys won. And that's why I wore a blue uniform with the blue-gray ball. It's like I tell people about World War II. It was a righteous war. Civil War was a righteous conflict. We needed to eliminate that stain on our country, and we did. And I think it's important people know that. Awesome.
I want to ask you about flying because I know you are so passionate about it, and I want first of all, I want to know how you got into flying. But second of all, what does it feel like to fly a plane?
Well, I have tried to get the Escamilla family up in that airplane for a long time.
To look at the lights?
Yes,
I know, at
to look at
Christmas.
the Christmas
He flies
lights.
people at Christmas to look at the lights.
Yes.
And I've been this close to doing it.
Chicken.
Yep.
Chicken.
Bach.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I will claim my chickenness, yes. But I love and admire you for doing that. And I think that it's such a wonderful, and here's a fun fact, you don't know this about me. When I was 12 years old, my stepdad was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force at Travis Air Force Base.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
And I flew. He had a friend that had a plane, a little small, like a four-seater, I want to say. And I did fly it, and I did a flyby and waved down at my parents when I was up in this. And so that was the closest I got to ever being a pilot. But I did get to actually, maneuver. I was 12, so of course my memory's a little fuzzy, but it was a great feeling. And so I want to know, how you got to love it and what it feels like for you.
Well, pilots will talk about a sense of freedom and all that kind of stuff. And to me, because my dad was a fighter pilot, he took me for an airplane ride when I was like 7. Mm-hmm. We had an airplane when we moved to Texas. He bought an airplane. So I kind of grew up with flying.
Yes.
And to me, most of those 43 years of flying, I've been flying a World War II airplane. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was a way to connect with that period of time.
So there was that history, history connection.
Every time I got in the airplane, I thought about, okay, there was a guy who was sitting in here when people were shooting, and it mattered.
Yeah.
And I get to do this just to show off, kind of.
For fun.
Yeah, for fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what does it feel like when you're up there? If you had to describe it, the feeling that you get when you're flying.
Well, I get that feeling of, many have come before me in the same airplane, sitting here doing the same thing. And then I get a sense of freedom, I guess. And I'm not one of these people who likes to fly just to fly. Mm-hmm. I have to do something. And so I spend most of my time flying an airplane, either at air shows or flying around in formation with other guys doing funeral flyovers, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that was gratifying.
Yeah, I bet. What is your most memorable experience in an airplane? Was there one air show or something that just really stands out that made a difference in your life?
Well, I took my son. We went to an air show in Lubbock, and we almost crashed.
Oh no!
Yeah.
That's memorable. That you don't forget.
It wasn't one of those. It was just a circumstance that I found myself in with my son in the back seat where it wasn't going well.
Yeah.
And so I pulled out of the formation and flew around, did something else, came back and landed. So it was a nothing,
right.
But it got my attention.
But it felt like a something.
And it was because I had my son in the back seat.
Yeah.
If it was just me, it would have been, oh, well,
Right,
But-
right.
And so that's my most memorable experience in the air.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it was a good ending, and I love that that you share your love of flying with others. What is the one common question that people ask you about airplanes? About is there a common question?
Well, this airplane that I fly around in was built in 1941, and so when people find that out, they say, "How does it still fly?"
That's a good question. Good question, people who ask that question.
Yes.
And then what is the answer? Because, parts have changed, right? They don't necessarily make them the same? Or
Actually,
maybe...
those parts are pretty common.
Okay.
So I say, well, it was made in 41. I was made in 46, and I'm doing pretty good. So let's just continue on here.
Good answer.
People like to know the history of the airplane and the history of all of the CAF airplanes.
Right.
And so it's kind of fun telling them about how old that is.
Right.
People are amazed that they're that old. And then when I tell them, don't look too closely at those 737s you get on with Southwest.
Why?
Because
No, I'm a little nervous. Why should I not look so closely?
Well, because they're, from a life standpoint, they've had a harder life than my airplane or the airplanes we have out of the CAF.
Because they fly so much.
And they pressurized and depressurized constantly. Oops, sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
It happens all the time. I hit it.
Yeah, it's recently they talked about a door blowing out of an airplane. and
Yes, which
everything.
was a miracle that nobody was sitting in those two seats.
Yes. And it's because what those airplanes have to go through, life cycles, is limited on those airplanes, and World War II airplanes were so overbuilt that they don't have that issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're just built a little different, they like to say.
They're like this desk.
Yeah. Just like you, Coach Coombes.
Yes.
Just built a little different.
Built a little different.
I love it.
Sure.
We have question of the day, so we're going to ask you. This is similar to quote of the day, but you
Okay.
just reach in. We ask the question and you answer. All right, which card did you get? The Dazzle card. Yes, I
Dazzle.
love that. Okay, and what is your question on the Dazzle card?
Have you ever had imposter syndrome? If you did, how did you overcome it?
Good question. Imposter syndrome, yeah. Have you ever had that before? You walked in, didn't feel like you belonged in the room.
I spent 2.5 years at SMU not belonging.
You belonged there.
No, there were people say differently, but I think that you overcome by being more self-aware and being confident in who you are and
I agree.
everything. And I don't think it, I am an introvert. I don't necessarily like crowds. I like talking on the microphone.
Say, hey, same here. We are introverted, extroverted.
Not like
introverted
that.
extroverts.
And so when we'd go to some place and I'd, find a corner and go stand over there. And I realized that there are other people out there who are as uncomfortable as me. So why not just go with it?
Yeah, just go with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, I like one-on-one, right? Like that's why I love podcasting so much, because I get to hear your story and it's not just that talk in a crowd, right? Hi, bye.
Right.
It's like we really get to
Yeah,
know
you get
each
to
other
connect, yes.
and connect. Yes, and I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
And I think introverted extroverts are like that. Like you said, we can talk on a microphone all day long, right? Oops, all day.
Yes.
But in a crowd, there's that little panic, little nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I get that.
Is my zipper down? It's that kind of concern.
Right. Is this on?
Yes. Got to steal that line.
I'm going to steal that joke. We were sharing microphone jokes before we got on today. I have a question for you. What is the biggest life lesson that you have learned through the years? Because I know each season of life, and I'm going to take a drink too, because that's a good idea. Each season of life teaches you something different. But what is the biggest that you have learned?
Well, in looking back, if I were going to give advice, and I sadly give advice to some of my students.
Well, I was going to ask you what advice you give your students. So good.
Don't pass up on doing something.
Oh, I love that.
Do it.
Just do it.
Like when I was recruiting kids to come play football, I'd say, you're going to be able to play football for 4 years.
Right.
You're going to live another 60.
Right.
You can't play football.
Right.
Do it
So
now.
don't pass it up now.
Same with going to the prom or whatever, take advantage. Do it. When you have an opportunity to do something, do it.
I love that. That is such good advice. It really is. And when you do it, you're glad you did.
Yes.
You never say, oh, my gosh.
No.
Wish I hadn't done that. I mean,
No.
there might be a few things that you say that
Oh, yeah.
about.
Yeah,
but if you never do it, you don't know what's going to
You
happen.
don't know what you're missing. And
Yes.
dealing with kids for most of my adult life, I see kids not doing something because they're scared or their friends aren't involved in it. And it's an opportunity that they shouldn't pass up.
Yeah.
And I say, do it.
And don't you think that's a beautiful part about Trinity School, is that you can do all of the sports. You can do
Yes.
everything. You can
Yes.
do basketball. You can do golf. You can do football. You can do chess club. You can do be in the band. And I think that that's one of the beautiful things I've loved about it for our kids, is you can try it all.
Yes. And I think that it's not always the case that you have when you're a young person in school, that you have the opportunity to do all of those different things, because people, for various reasons get categorized as, well, he's a jock, he gets here.
Right.
He might have a good voice, but he's not going to sing in the choir because
Right.
he's got to be over here doing this.
Right.
And at Trinity, you can do whatever.
Yeah, people aren't put in a box.
No.
That you can do it all. And I
Right.
love that. And I think you should try it all in
Yes.
life. Because to me, it's just as important. I'm sorry if I'm preaching to the choir. I always say this every, like almost every podcast. But it's just as important to know what you don't want to do as it is what you do want to do. And how do you know what you don't want to do if you don't
Unless you try
give it
it.
a try?
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So what advice would you give to a teacher? You have taught for 50 years. Think about that. Like, so if you're thinking of going into education, what advice would you give to a teacher today?
Well, the new breed of teacher tends to be more technologically focused. I mean, these evil computers
That are at our fingertips.
that we're tied to.
Yes.
Sadly, I think that you can get tied up in technology, and
Yes.
that's not good. And teachers need to realize your students are going to remember you for you, not for what you taught.
Yes.
They're going to remember the personality that you projected, the interests you had, not your subject.
That's so true.
It's you.
So be yourself is what you're saying.
Exactly.
You have to use the technology to a point, right? But don't get stuck in it is what you're saying. That is good advice.
They hate to see me come and substitute because I said, "Where's the whiteboard?" And they said, "Well, we have this touch screen." I'm going,
No, I just want to draw something up here.
it was a point of honor that I had the last chalkboard in my classroom at Trinity School.
Oh my goodness.
When I
love
gave
it.
up teaching full time, they took it away.
Oh, I bet that was a sad day.
It was a sad day.
For that chalkboard, because that's, for us growing up through the chalkboard
yeah.
before the whiteboards and the technology. I mean, there was something about the sound of it, right?
Yes,
You're
yes,
writing on
yes,
it.
yes,
That
yes.
As a student, you're like, I'm about to learn something.
I'm about to have to learn something.
Yeah. Well, that's usually the case.
yes, yes.
I love that. I think that is so fantastic. Okay, we're going to play our fun game now of quick questions. I ask you, and then you just give me the first response. And I can't wait to hear this one. What is your favorite book?
As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner.
Okay. I've never read it, but I'm gonna add it to my list.
You won't like it.
No? Okay.
Most people don't like Faulkner.
Really?
No.
Okay. Why do you like Faulkner?
Well, he's a Southern author, and I started reading all of his books when I was at SMU because I was an English major.
Oh, okay.
I was an English history major. So
Gotcha.
So I like Faulkner. But
Awesome.
most people go.
Oh, okay.
There
Favorite? Do you listen to podcasts?
No, I've never listened to a podcast in my life.
So your first one you'll get to listen to will be
Will be me,
yours.
yes.
Well, then
Yeah.
I was going to ask you your favorite podcast, so I guess it would be this one.
Yes, it's most definitely.
Well, there's some great podcasts out there. There's actually some history ones I think you would really love.
I have been told that.
Yes.
But again, you're talking to an old person about technological things.
I'm going to show you how to get on podcasts so you can listen to yours when we're done. And I always tell people because my mom did not know where to find the podcast either, and I said purple button. There's this purple button on your phone. Click the purple button. So I'll show you where that purple button is on your phone.
Good.
But so next favorite is favorite restaurant in Midland.
Wall Street.
Wall Street. Oh, we love Wall Street. That is one
Yes.
of our favorites.
Yes.
Al
Yes.
and I go all the time.
Yes.
Love
That's
it.
my favorite
I
restaurant.
love it. I agree. It is a good one. Their soups are amazing. Just throwing it out there. Soup and the bread and the
The
salad.
bread and salad are.
Those blue cheese crumbles. They're the best. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
Well, favorite coffee shop.
Higher Grounds.
Oh yes, it's a good one, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you like the art in there?
I like the guy's approach to his customers.
Nice.
And we have little alumni deals over there once or twice a month.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, favorite movie.
Gone with the Wind.
Really? Okay. Well, that doesn't surprise me actually. Now that at first I was like, really? Then I thought, yeah, but I thought it might have been more of a war movie, even though that one has the war in it. I thought it might be one of those.
Well, it's just an extended chick flick.
Yeah,
So
it is.
Casablanca ranks up there with
Oh, that's a good
Gone with the
one.
Wind too.
Yeah,
I
Casablanca
don't
is
like
a good
modern
one.
movies at all.
All right, favorite. You ready for this?
Yep.
Favorite life hack. Something that has made your life easier through the years that you want to share with the young people.
Being married.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Having a partner.
That's sweet.
I mean, you two are living examples of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can't imagine.
No.
Doing life without Al. So
Yeah.
I love that though. I've never heard that answer for life hack,
There you
and I
go.
think it's a good one. So that is excellent. Okay, favorite memory here in Midland.
striking President Bush out on 3 pitches in the 6th grade.
What? I hadn't even gotten a fun fact, so I hope there's another one in there, but that's a good one. You struck him out?
He would
awesome.
deny this, and we laugh. He went to, when I moved to Midland, I was in the 6th grade. At Sam Houston Elementary. I was in one class. He was in the other 6th grade class. We met out of the playgrounds, and I had played Little League baseball in California, and he was a big baseball. He brought baseball.
See, I knew he loved baseball, but I didn't realize he played it growing up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was a big baseball guy.
Okay.
And he brought hardball. And those were outlawed. The teachers would confiscate his hardballs.
Really?
And I don't think George, if you put him in a room, well, in that whole 6th grade at Sam Houston, if you said, okay, one of these guys is going to be president of the United States, he was not going to be on the top of the list because he was just a baseball. But anyway, we played at recess. And I was the California guy, and I lived that down. So we were out there playing baseball, and we played workups, and I ended up being the pitcher. Then he ended up being a batter, and I remember that I struck him out. He remembers that I did not.
Really?
Yes.
So there is a discrepancy in the story here.
And, that's how bad history is written.
Or our memories are.
Yes.
Either way. What a fun story. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
I love it. And, you said that you wouldn't have thought that, looking back, that he would be the president someday.
Right.
When he did, get in the White House, what was your first initial thought?
Well, I was...
Besides that I struck him out.
Well, I actually went to Escamilla with Laura.
Okay.
And we went back and forth to school a lot. And so I knew her pretty well. And when George moved and then we came back and started this oil company, I lived close to the YMCA, and he ran by my house, and I talked to him every day.
Yeah.
And then he became governor. And we had our first, I can't remember what, 35th high school reunion at the governor's mansion.
Oh, my goodness.
And at the time, we all went to Laura and said, because that was when he was being ponied up as being a presidential candidate.
They were prepping him.
And we said, if he gets elected, we want to have a reunion in the White House. And she said, okay.
And so did you?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
You had your high school reunion in the White House. See, I hadn't even asked him his fun fact yet. And he's dropping all of these nuggets right here.
Well, it was
awesome.
It was because of Laura. It was we did it in 2008.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah.
That really is awesome.
Yeah. It was way cool.
So now, what's a fun fact about you, Mr. Bill Coombes? Because there's so many. This has been awesome.
Obviously going to the White House was
Yeah.
the high point of the whole experience. And then when it was Christmas time, and I was trying to think of a unique gift for my parents in 2008. So I wrote a letter to George and said, would you write a letter to my parents? Because my parents and their life story is kind of like yours and your parents' life story. Young people get married during the war, fighter pilot, all that stuff.
Right.
And he did.
Oh, my goodness.
Handwritten letter
really cool.
to my parents. And I got it framed and it's hanging up. And I always tell people that President Bush wrote this. You can tell because there's a misspelling and a scratch out there.
That is great.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. That is great. I love it. Okay, favorite, oh, gosh, I have to get back on track here. Favorite, I love this one. Favorite memory here in Midland?
That's a hard one.
No.
How about the death of the Scarborough Hotel? I remember that.
Do you really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Downtown when it blew up or imploded or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what year that was?
70 something.
Okay.
In the 70s.
I'm obviously not a history buff. I'm like 50 something.
No,
70.
I don't suppose that's a favorite memory, but it's a memory I have.
That's vivid.
Specifically of Midland.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So this is an important question because I think you have done so many amazing things in your life. What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, that I was a person who cared about his students, that saw a need for the history that we preserve out at the CAF, and that I generally was a pretty nice guy.
I would agree with all those things. 100%.
Well, thank you.
Do you have a favorite joke?
Well, I've already told you the Irish priest joke.
But our viewers and listeners didn't get to hear it.
I'll let you say it.
Okay.
I won't repeat that one. No, I don't. I don't have a lot of jokes. I'm kind of a quipster more than a joke person.
You're a spontaneous microphone guy.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. That's all that stuff at the football games that just comes out.
Well, and if you have not listened to Coach Coombes on the microphone during a Trinity football game, I encourage you to do so next year. You are so entertaining. And I love how you interact with the crowd. Because whenever I MC an event, I'm like, just so y'all know, I love audience participation.
Yes.
I don't want to be up here alone going like this. Is this thing on?
Yes. Start the bus.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's what I feed off of.
Right.
In the sense of, when something's not going well, you can sense it. When something is, you want to keep it going.
Very true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to check my list, check it twice, make sure I've asked you all the important things. Oh, here's a good one. What is the bravest moment you've ever had in your life?
Bravest moment.
Mm-hmm.
My son, when he was like in the 4th grade, was diagnosed with immune deficiency, which sounded really bad.
Right.
And I remember him being really scared that he was going to die. And I had to go in and tell him, no, you're not going to. And trust me, I had to be brave for him.
Yeah.
And that was probably the only time in my life where I've actually done something brave, I guess.
Where you felt scared, but you had to be
Yes.
there and be the brave one for him.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
And health-wise,
He's fine.
doing good, thank God.
Yeah.
Very
He
good.
outgrew that particular issue and got through it. And thank God it turned out okay.
I love it.
But it was a scary time.
At the time, absolutely.
You don't want
Well, yeah, as a parent, that's the worst thing that you can think of is something
something happened to your child.
to your child.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been such a great conversation. I always ask at the end if there is anything that we didn't get to talk about today that you knew coming into the podcast. You're like, oh, I hope that we get to talk about that or discuss that. That's important to your story and that you would love to share with everyone.
Well, there is one thing.
Oh, good.
When the CAF headquarters moved from Midland, so many people thought, well, they're gone. They'll never come back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the people who actually made the headquarters operation work are still here.
Oh.
And we still have the hangar.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually have more airplanes in there now. And we created this Midland Army Airfield Foundation and Museum where we highlight Midlanders who did something in the war, the story of the Midland Army Airfield. And it's open every Saturday from 10 to 3 and free admission. So
There you go.
come out.
Something to do. I'm glad you shared that. That is fantastic.
You can buy a hat made by
Rig ID.
Rig ID in our gift shop.
Yay, I love that. I love a double plug.
Yeah, you like that?
I love that. That was such a great way to move both of those out there.
Yes.
I love that.
I think that, I think that the history of Midland is not just the oil industry.
Yes.
It's also what Midland was during the war. And this was the largest bombardier training base in the country. Wow. And a lot of the prominent Midlanders after the war were people who served here and came back. And there's more history there than people realize.
Yeah. I love that. And so I encourage everyone to go check it out and learn more. Why not? And it's free.
It's free. Yeah.
They say there's nothing in life for free. Well, there are a couple things.
A couple of things.
Some advice from us.
Advice
from us is free and going out there on a Saturday. I love that.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. And quick plug for the alumni, because I know that is really important to you. I would love to have you invite the Trinity alumni out and why you think it's so great for them to reconnect.
Well, the friends that you have in high school are the friends you have for life. You meet a lot of people in college, but they're not your friends.
Yeah.
And so the way we've tried to structure the Alumni Association there is that you're always welcome to come to school. We had an alumni panel 2 days ago.
Yes, I saw that.
We've had alums come and talk to the current students. And I want those kids who went through Trinity to continue to have a connection to the school, because as they age, they'll realize how important it was to them.
Right. Those are the formative years.
My son, because I taught there and he went there, he never said anything good about Trinity School until he turned 30.
And then he realized.
And then he started realizing all of the things that the school offered that he took advantage of that shaped him into the person he is today.
And I think he's probably not alone. A lot of people feel that, wherever they went to school, right? It's almost like the hometown, right?
Exactly.
Until you
Yeah,
move
exactly.
away, or even if you don't move away, until age shows you differently and you go, wow,
Yes.
I really had a great place
Yes.
where I grew up, or
Yes.
went to school,
Right.
or was open to all these opportunities.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I love how time has a way of showing us those things.
And I think that your kids are going to say the same thing.
They already do. They look back very fondly of those years and the relationships and the teachers and the experiences and the expeditionary trips, which are amazing, and a lot of fondness. So, and I think that is a beautiful thing. So, well, thank you for everything today. Thank you for your time. It has been so much fun. Are you sure there's no more stories you want to tell me? I know you have more stories, Mr. Coombes. I know you do. I could listen to you all day. I love hearing your your take on the world and life and everything that you've learned through the years. So I appreciate you sharing this with us today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and it was really a pleasure for me.
Well, thank you, and you are welcome back anytime.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Be warned. There could be a part 2.
Could be a part 2.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bill Coombes, our guest today. He deserves another round of applause.
Yay, me.
I love our educators, and I love this educator right here. So thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Tell Elise we say hello, and thank you for sharing with us today everything about your heart and your life. So
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to thank our sponsors. Cannot forget to thank our sponsors, because look, how much fun did we just have? I hope all of you did too. Yes. And we can't do it without our sponsors. So big shout out to Kevin Foreman of Foreman Financial, also to Hotel Santa Rita Midland, Rig ID, Thin FR, Midland Cap Company, and joincapclub.com. As I always say, support local however you can, but just support local. Because remember, when you buy from a small business owner, you're helping to pay for singing lessons, golf lessons, education, all the things. You know the things. We have some great local businesses, don't we? We do. You mentioned
yes.
a bunch today. And I think that's it, Mr. Coombes. Anything else? Final words?
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
So then you know my final words. Don't forget to dream big, believe, and never give up. Thank you for your time today. You make it a great day.